Hi, my name is Lenore von Stein, and this is yet another episode of The Facts. And this is, I'm talking tonight to John McGuire and Benita Marcus. They both are composers of music. And listen, what kind of music do you like, and why?
And why?
No, not why. What kind of music do you like? As you compose, both of these people compose what I call, for lack of better words, complex music. Music that's expressive and not expressive and personal and ergo automatically not conventional because it is personal and expressive. So what kind of music do you like?
Well, for me, I like any music that's good music. And I am not, we used to call it style wars after Star Wars. There was always this battle of styles going on. And I have absolutely no prejudice about style. And so I'm open to any kind of music. And, you know, if it's good, it's good. If it's not good, it's not good. And you can usually tell pretty quickly.
John?
Well, it's a question that throws me into a state of confusion already with the word like, which is almost isn't really part of my repertoire. I usually don't simply like music. It calls for a stronger kind of emotion, or it calls forth a stronger kind of emotion, like love or wonder or even fear sometimes, if I'm drawn to a music. Of course, I quite agree with what Benita just said about style. But like, you can almost be sure if I say I like something, I'm damning by faint praise. I recently encountered an old score that somebody sent me. I used to own it, by Anton Webern. And I read through the score for the first time, I think, in 50 years. And I was so blown away by this piece that I couldn't work myself for 3 days. I just walked around muttering to myself about the greatness of this piece. And so, can I say I liked the piece? I can't say that at all.
That wouldn't work.
It was more like, it was perhaps more, there was a mixture of wonder and fear, perhaps a little bit like Bonacera in The Godfather, you know. Be my friend, Godfather, a little like that. So I have my problems with liking things.
Bonacera? They say Bonacera in The Godfather before they off you?
No, that's one of the characters.
Oh, it's one of the characters.
There's a character at the very beginning who says, "I believe in America." That's the scene at the very beginning of the movie. Where was I?
Liking.
I was with my problems with the word
you
like.
You were walking around the room muttering for 3 days after gleaning a piece of
reading the Webern score, right? So, what more can I say about that? Nothing.
What kind of music don't you like? Don't you enjoy, or don't you want to infect your ears with? I mean, I do worry about infecting my ears.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Can I say something?
That's what we're here for.
I like music. I like to be influenced by what I hear, and it very seldom happens. And sometimes a great piece will influence me, and more often a bad piece will influence me. I'll hear something, and it's so cheap and so bad, and I can't believe the composer wrote it because I expected better things from that person. And it inspires me to go home and work. I can't tell you why, but, you know, it's just like, I always had this feeling since I was young that I have to be a composer, because if I don't write music and music isn't written, it's not going to extend into the future. So I always had this feeling like I'm keeping music alive by writing it.
Mm.
And I don't know how that connects, but maybe it does.
This thing about hearing something that you or seeing something you don't really like, or hearing some music you don't really like, and it being a fuel to send you back to work. I mean, I'm often dealing with conventions that I feel that are coding my brain and my ability to see. And sometimes if I hear a piece of music that, I don't know, strikes me as one of these, or I guess I get interested in it because it's of the convention, and I want to like cut holes into it and find move it apart so that I'm not locked in the gate of this cliche.
Do you have a way of doing that, moving it apart?
I have, so far I'm developing ways. I think it just in detailing I do that on this show all the time as I'm making these pieces, and in detailing the thing that I'm talking about a little bit more than I was set out to do. Or it's about this. Well, what is it in like holding my breath and not worrying so much about how long it's going to take me to do it, and simply more adjectives or more sounds or more something about some little segment of it that I thought I had gotten, but maybe I got it in kind of this bare cloddy way, and it needs some refinement, and that refinement to me is detail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, detail is everything.
Detail is everything.
It is. It's voice leading. It's inner voices. It's how you orchestrate a vertical sonority. It's everything. That's why we study counterpoint when we're young, to learn how to handle that sort of detail. Well, there's detail that's significant and detail that's not significant in terms of the piece.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will just throw something in to hopefully liven up the piece and that's its only function.
Yes. Yes.
And I find a lot of that very manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
And talking about liking and not liking, I do not like manipulative music. I like music that's just there, and you're allowed to go and listen to it and go into it if you want, but not something that's hitting you over the head.
How do you tell if music is manipulative?
It's a feeling I get from the music, that it's saying, now you must feel this, now you must feel that, that sort of thing. And with my music, when I'm on stage, I want the audience to just, I'm not playing for them. I'm playing for me, I'm playing for a few other people that I love, and that's it. And I'm on stage. And so they pick up on that, and they join me in the process. And so they're coming willingly into it. And when you're getting hit over the head, it's not a willing thing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I mean, Sturm und Drang or whatever, it gets to be too much sometimes.
I've seen, it seems to me, a fair amount of audiences that seem to be enjoying music that they're not enjoying, that they think they ought to enjoy. I've seen it, this is Metropolitan. They think they ought to enjoy, but when I look at them, I look at the way they're dressed and how I can't imagine that they are enjoying it. And but they pretend to enjoy it, and that's pretty awful. I mean, where's the pleasure of that evening out? Where's the thing that you take home with you? Or just, I'm so glad I got out of there, out of that room. I was, oh, this is great. This is really, something. And maybe that's, I mean, because music complicated music, again, these are my definitions, in the United States is in really bad shape in terms of recognition and audience and funding and, you know, reviews and attention, you know, and it seems to me so, like any of the fine arts, so important in helping you deal with reality, since it breaks through these conventions that I was telling John. I teach music and art occasionally in a college I teach at that teaches ground crew and pilots, and so one of the first assignments I would give them is, and they're for people from all over the world, and I would ask them to bring in a piece of music that they like without words. That was a big problem already, without words. So they bring in this music. It could be from China, it could be from Iran, it could be from here, from there. It was always American music. It was always American pop music. It always had this steady beat. They just had, you know, forced this language, you know, the rhythm of their own language into this. You know, this is our music. It just sounded like the other music. Sounded like the music I put on the radio. You know, it's not. It's generic. And that's what. It seems to me that most people think music is. It's not. At least most of the people that I run into, it's not something that is. They don't want that unique thing. They don't. It's not something that is. I don't know, that speaks to them in that way. It speaks to them in ways that they already understand.
Yes, I find that there's two types of listeners. One that can accept innovation, and one that wants to be reassured by the music. And the person that wants to be reassured by the music it will tend to listen to pieces where, more classical pieces or pieces where they've heard it before, so they know what's coming up. They don't want anything unexpected happening. They don't want anything unusual happening. It's a personality-based thing. And another thing I see that people don't really understand about composers is we are not music lovers. Music lovers is like another category. So people that listen to music. But when you're actually making music and you're focused on making music and you're focused on the sounds in your head, it has nothing to do with who's a better pianist or, you know, any of that kind of like sort of sports approach to music. Well, can we sit where we can see the pianist's fingers, that kind of thing. I mean, you should be sitting there with your eyes closed and listening, as far as I'm concerned. There's nothing really to see on stage. And it would be interesting to do a concert where you didn't even see the instruments, in a way. There was like a screen or something.
You know, like those electronic concerts, when I first started going to those things, those weird things where you're sitting looking at two speakers on the stage, you know, and everybody's sitting there, and I thought, this is another world. I mean, this is, I didn't mind it. It was okay, because I don't really want to watch performers on stage either. I don't know what I'm looking at, you know, unless there's something about the way they're moving or, you know, that, but that's different from looking at two speakers on a stage.
No, it doesn't give you anything to look at, does it? An orchestra is a wonderful looking thing.
Oh, it's
all those beautiful instruments.
Yes.
With all those people working at all those beautiful looking instruments.
And the history of these instruments and the evolution of these instruments
is long and complex. And,
yes,
and has really produced something, hasn't it?
People are like, because we have the new technology, the digital technology, the recording technology, everything that we've had since midpoint of the last century, we forget about that the complex technology that already exists in every single instrument and in every orchestra. And that sometimes technology is not inventing a new box or something like that, but inventing a new way to put instruments together, a new kind of orchestration, a new kind of notation, a new kind of making something be a sound object rather than just notes or something like that. So what is technology is a very interesting question.
What is technology?
Yeah, I mean, or innovation we were talking about earlier. What is innovation?
How would you define it?
I was about to ask that question in relation to what you were saying before about this apparent process of worldwide leveling of taste into a single beat, so to speak.
Yes.
How does technology relate to that? Is it a factor that's causing it, or
well, you can mass produce this stuff, right? You can go into a studio, and you don't have to have you have to have certain skills, but there are lots of depth of taste and stuff. I mean, you can make a lot of money selling this stuff that's made that you can where you can buy these skills, like Hollywood can buy a movie or something. The skills that go into making a movie, and the more you hit this level, you know, this medium level, I think more and more people forget that there's anything else. You know, they don't hear anything else, and so it makes it. All the shoes are these white sneakers, and does that all shoes are? Come on, we know we can make all kinds of shoes. You don't have to just make these shoes, but this is the only shoes available. So I got to pick from this white sneaker or this white sneaker with a little blue stripe on it. That's the choice, and I think that's one of the things that's precipitating it, aside from the Americanization of temporary Americanization of the world.
If that's what it is, Americanization, or is there some deeper things, such as the development of technology? And if so, what can be done about it? Here I am interviewing everybody.
Well, isn't it also the international corporate use of that development? I mean, because they're the people. If it wasn't making money,
dead it would be, right?
I would think so. That's what it seems like.
I'm sure that's true. So this is something I don't think any of us particularly like.
No, frankly, from what I've been reading lately, I think that there's a big problem with digital music, and within the next 10 or 20 years, I think it's going to be almost obsolete. In some ways, I think there's going to be a whole separation of music, the acoustic music, the digital music, the live performance, the digital recording. Because what they're finding now is, and this is really something very profound, that they've done tests on music and how it affects the body and the energy meridians of the body and how they're influenced by acoustic music. And we know that music is used for therapy for lots of different reasons because it has an effect on the body. And so they did these tests with acoustic music. They did the same tests with digital music. And
you mean music that's been digitally recorded?
Yes.
Right?
And it turned out that in every single case, the digital music had absolutely no effect on the body.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You know that? Did they know why that was the case?
Well, think about it. I mean, it's energy. It's a wave. And if you start breaking that wave up, no matter how many bits you break it up into, there's still infinite space in between.
I don't understand.
Well, when you digitize something, you're just breaking a sound wave up into little bitty bits. Yeah. Right? And every bit is
into 10 tens, right?
Well, it could be any kind of breakdown, but between each of these, there's a leap, and in that leap, what I'm saying is an infinite amount of sound moving, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, and you're talking about the difference between a digital, a sample recording and a continuum.
Yes, and a pure acoustic situation.
Yeah.
And I think just that very simple thing of breaking up the sound wave is enough to keep it from affecting the body, because you lose the force of the energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel it when I hear digital music. I feel it. And I listen to things that I used to listen. I listen to things on LP and through my old amp, 1973 Marantz, and it has an acoustic speakers, and it has a completely different feeling, and it's very powerful. But when I listen to it on my headphones, on my iPod, digitally, it doesn't do hardly anything for me. And I think...
I'm quite sure that's true.
Well,
the high sinuses are turned into square waves, for example. The high sinus tones are turned into square waves when you get high enough. And that's a real shame, because it sounds completely different.
Yeah.
And
I think that a lot of people subconsciously, subliminally, let's say, are listening to music, digital music, and not liking it. But the reason they're not liking it is not the music; it's the medium. It's not doing what it used to do. And I can remember back in 1970, sitting around with my friends and listening to Abbey Road. Every night we'd listen to music, and we always end up with Abbey Road because it's such a fabulous album. And it had an effect on everyone in the room. It was a social experience. And I don't feel that social experience happening anymore when I listen to digital music. Of course, you know, when we've always just got our headphones on too. But so I'm a little frustrated with the whole situation. I'm very interested in putting out some LPs, but even researching the LP situation, a lot of them you have to go through a recording studio, and then the recording studio is always going to put something digital in there to break it up. So I don't know.
How would you define innovation?
Can you get a little more specific than that?
Well, you know, in music as opposed to cars or something, you know.
Okay.
This is a term that's thrown around like nobody's business, right? It's innovative. Even worse, cutting edge. And it's really something, cutting edge. And so it seems so, I mean, like cutting edge seems so like hopelessly suburban. So you know, and you had mentioned something about a particular funder or group fund, you know, that funding things that are tricky, but not necessarily good music, just tricky in terms of performance, or I'm not sure what you.
Oh, I was talking about. There's a lot of different kinds of grants that you can apply for to get commissions or whatever, and I was looking at some. I won't mention the organization, but I wanted to apply for a grant, so I looked at everything that they had granted in the last 3 years, every project that received money, and every single one of these projects were, number one, not musical, and number two, just novelty. They were really looking for some kind of sideline novelty for music, if you know what I mean.
Like a circus act.
Yeah. And so if you had a serious project, it would never get funded. You had to come up with some kind of crazy thing like, I'm going to go to Bali and record this, and I don't know. It was just sort of silly. And it's a serious organization, and they should be serious about composition. And I don't
have
think
serious
that's
power,
serious.
whether or not they're a serious organization. But that thing about the kind of the circus part of art business, show business, you know, that easy kind of way of looking at you know, what'll make money, what'll bring them in the door. This, you know, as the, I mean, to some extent, audiences must have always been sort of desensitized because all kinds of stuff has risen to the top. But I mean, is the desensitization and this? I have no way of knowing this. Greater in this period of time that we're living in, less, about the same, just different forms, and what is its? It seems to me it has a political, pretty political. It has a political purpose, and to have people so sort of estranged from themselves, from their fellow human beings, with not being able to interact. You know, I mean, art is about communication, isn't it? You know, big communication, and the communication I'm getting from you is all very, I don't know, it's not. I mean, I remember spending my teenage years listening. I mean, I sort of liked Abbey Road, but I didn't like a lot of stuff, and I couldn't understand what people were listening to, but I knew I had to listen just like I had to drink Coca-Cola, you know, because that was, you had to do that. But it made no sense to me at all.
Drinking Coca-Cola made no sense to you.
No, Coca-Cola was all right, you know, but getting through a whole glass of it was, you know, a chore.
Yes.
But not anymore, but it was then. But, you know, listening to all this stuff that I was thinking the other day, because I like some country, I certainly like bluegrass music because I think it's complex and I like it, and I like it. I don't know whether it's complex, but I remember the first time that I ever struck me that country music was really good was I was hitchhiking in the West, and I got into a truck that was 2 truckloads full of sheep, and the sheep were baying, and on the radio this guy had some country music thing, and suddenly country music really made sense. I understood what this stuff was about.
You could relate the two sounds.
Yeah,
to each other?
not just the whole gestalt. You know, the smells, the road, the night, these twangy sounds, and it didn't seem so foreign, which I grew up in New York. It always seemed pretty foreign to me. I didn't know what it was about, but then I got to appreciate it.
Still, I don't know any definition of, I don't have an operative definition of innovation in music. Do you?
No. I did set out some parameters. I don't know if I didn't find it in time for this show tonight.
Oh shoot!
I don't know. I don't know if I revisit it if it's going to strike me as wonderful as it did, you know, when I put it together.